talk about Travis Hunter's coach, because Stephen A. Smith had an interesting comment on First Take. And he said, essentially, the Texas A&M should have hired Coach Prime, that Alabama should have considered Coach Prime, and that Florida State, Coach Prime's alma mater, should hire Coach Prime. And I thought this was interesting. Now, I know how you feel about this, because you feel like he does not recruit the way one must recruit to win at those places. I'm actually starting to question that a little bit as I watch Colorado improve every week.
Hey, you know that Ace Ventura? He sucks up all the air. Before he goes on the Roger Podacter. Okay, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. I don't know if it's a rant. I'm going to be calm. So Deion Sanders' lack of high school recruiting is turning out to not matter in the short term, right? Like, Colorado is much better this year than I thought they were going to be. I think most people thought they were going to be worse than this. So the fact that he was able to flip his roster, like, Colorado might have a better offensive line right now than Ohio State, dude. Like they have done something in the portal to improve this program, no question, right? But my thing with high school recruiting was a two-pronged issue, which is, one, if you don't build your roster in a healthy way, it's hard to flip it in 2 years and create any sort of sustainability. Now, Deion Sanders probably would be great in the portal every year because he's freaking Deion Sanders. But the second part of the second prong is that if you don't recruit high schools, to me, that sends a message that you don't plan to be there very long. Because I feel like no coach would probably prefer to start over from ground zero every year, right? Like, you want to have some familiarity, some players on your roster that you're developing so that by year 3, 4, and 5, your team is much better than in year 1 and 2. Is that a fair thing?
Here's the thing, Art. Well, here's the thing. Because the reason I'm questioning this was I'm starting to question whether we know exactly how this is going to look in the coming years. Now, I think there's a point where you get to where maybe it's collectively bargained, maybe there's contracts, maybe there is some security and some continuity. But I do know, like, there are major coaches who've built their programs through high school recruiting who have just told their staffs, like, starting this offseason, forget continuity. Continuity is over. It's going to be like the NFL. We're going to have a radically different roster every year. Get used to it. Get over it. Maybe Deion was just a little ahead of the curve on this. And I know because I said you can't do it this way. You should
write that if you think that.
It won't work this way. I kept saying it won't work this way. You got to do it this other way. And the Colorado fans pushed back on me. The Deion fans pushed back on me. And they said, no, he's got a plan. And you'll see it'll work. Well, right now they're right. It is working because they're getting better. And I will say, because I always say you got to build on the line of scrimmage through high school. Like, you need to be signing 4 and 5 high school offensive linemen a year. It's the Oklahoma conversation we had a few weeks ago. Now, who did he sign out of high school? This past cycle, the number 1 offensive tackle, Jordan Seaton, who is playing well and getting better every week. So, I don't know, maybe he's got a better handle on this than we do.
Okay. I just don't know that I'm ever going to buy into the notion that high school recruiting is dead. So, like, if
I'm not saying it's dead. Yeah. I'm saying he's doing some of it. He's got the best high school offensive tackle from last year who is playing well for them now.
It's one 5-star player to commit to Colorado every year.
Right. But what if he gets more? What if he gets more?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I want. I want him to get more. I want him to try to get more.
But
he's not trying to get more.
I think he may be able to get more than that without doing the things you think he has to do.
Well, that'll be interesting. So this is an
because remember they don't have a lot of they don't have a ton of NIL money either, but revenue sharing is coming, so they're gonna have a budget. And I've talked about this with Clemson. I've talked about this with schools like Wake Forest. Like, the schools that did not have a ton of NIL money are now going to have a budget of some kind. They're going to be able to compete for the ones they really want to compete for. And, like, not an offensive lineman, but Julian Lewis. We talked about him a ton because he's committed to USC. Colorado and Indiana still recruiting him. Julian Lewis was on campus at Colorado for the Cincinnati game. Like, they're clearly still working on him. So I don't know if this would work at an Alabama.
Well, let me
or Texas A&M, but it could work at Colorado.
Okay. So Big Cat said that Florida State has a magic bullet. Stephen A. Smith's tweeting this. I think a lot of people think that Florida State, because this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about whether or not he can win 9 games in Colorado. We're talking about
Norvell
whether
has a $70 million buyout.
Okay, but let's pretend he had a $5 buyout and that I could pay it. What's the number one concern at Florida State right now?
Quarterback.
No, but what's the number one concern about the way that the roster is constructed? Is it that
they
they're
don't
too transactional and they have no continuity? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now you want to take that and put it there? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier to be, and I'm not like, listen, it's like hard.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Ari.
Let me just finish.
No. Let me. You can recruit out of high school at Florida State a lot easier than you can at Colorado, even if you aren't going to every high school, because there's lots of really good players who can just drive to your campus. You can't do that at Colorado. Like, if you want to get people to come visit you in Tallahassee, it's a 5-hour drive from Atlanta. It's a 4-hour drive from Orlando. It's a 3.5-hour drive from Jacksonville. Kids from Mobile can come on over. Kids from Birmingham can cut down. Like, you can get good players to come see you, and they don't even have to get on a plane. You don't have to work as hard as you do at Colorado to get them to come see you.
No, you absolutely don't. I don't know that I would want to hire a coach at a place that wants to win national titles that doesn't want to work as hard. Like, that's the problem for me. Like,
he's got an advantage that the other coaches don't, in that people want to come see him. Whereas if you just got a guy, or even if it's a good coach, they might not necessarily want to. Yeah. But
now imagine if he had that advantage and worked really hard.
I know. I get it. I said the same thing. But what he's doing is working. And we said it wouldn't.
I'm with you. Like, I don't want to disparage Colorado, because what he's doing is excellent. Like, I wrote a column last week that we should start paying attention for the right reasons. Like, in my position with Deion is, like, I think a lot of people like came into this thinking, well, this is going to be a clown show. He doesn't know how to coach. He's got no coaching experience. Like, he's hired a pretty good staff. And even after the Sean Lewis thing, I was like, oh God. But like, he's figured out a way to put together a staff.
I would say their offense is more effective now than it was last year. So it worked.
Yeah. But you're in a position where you're doing all the things from a football standpoint, a program building standpoint, that make me feel like, okay, that would work at a big place. The thing that scares me is that I have a understanding and a thought of what you need to be at those places. And Deion Sanders, with full effort, is if Deion Sanders was at least trying at Colorado, because it's like, oh, well, maybe he's not going on the road because he doesn't feel like they have the NIL money to go get it. Okay, fine. But trying there, I feel like it would work. But I'm not even sure that Deion Sanders wants to be a college coach long term. Like, that's the thing. Like, are we even sure of that piece of this? Like, do you think that it's like his life goal right now to build a long-term sustainable football winner in college? Like, I don't know that any of his behavior.
I don't know that it is at Colorado. I don't know that it is at Colorado, but and I know the Colorado people don't want to hear this. Like, JD Piquel put out a video right after that Stephen A. thing and said, "Look, what's wrong with the job he has now? Like, why can't he just stay at Colorado and do this?" But
give him truth serum, Andy, right here in the neck. Deion, do you want to be Florida State's coach for the next 15 years?
It's a good question. And I think his pursuit of the guy we would think would be the quarterback of the future tells you that he's planning on being at Colorado next year.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you're recruiting at that level and you're bringing guys in, I mean, that to me does say that. It does. So it makes me wonder if you can go on the Oprah Winfrey show and SNL and all the other things he goes on. I think he should get on an airplane and go try to get a top. Do you know what Colorado would be if they worked the portal as good as they did and then signed top 30 classes. I'm not even asking him to go sign a top 15
the most talented team in the Big 12 every year.
They would own the Big 12. And honestly speaking, I know Florida State and Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State are sexier big-time programs, but in the new system of this sport, if you're able to sign the types of classes that like even Kansas State signs, and then you can go add 5 awesome players through the portal that are the skill position players, and then maybe sign a 5-star offensive tackle, which he's already proven he could do, they would literally own the Big 12 and create a winning. Like, my criticism of Deion Sanders was never from a place of, I don't believe this could work. In fact, if you go back to The Athletic in the weeks and months after he got hired at Colorado, every single column I wrote about Deion Sanders was, holy shit, this is going to be awesome. My disappointment with Deion has been the output in terms of the things that we expect coaches to do during the offseason, during their Friday nights, like that he does not do, that makes me question whether he will ever be able to get to the potential that his star actually, is. Like, he is famous, he's articulate, he's funny, he's handsome. Like, people want to be around him. People want to meet him. People want to fly to Colorado to see him. He has every advantage in the world. If he would just like wake up every morning like Dan Lanning with that fire in his belly to go get kids. Like, you are driven not by Louis Vuitton jokes and cool offer letters. If you were driven by the pursuit of talent accumulation, you literally, I don't even think it's crazy to say, I think that Deion Sanders could win a national championship at Colorado. I literally do. In this new world, if you actually got to a point where you used your star, your main qualification, to recruit your ass off in the high school ranks and then go get the best players in the portal that you can get to supplement that roster, if the sport is actually flat, like, I think you could even make the case that it's easier to get to the position to win a national championship at Colorado than it is at Alabama. Now, the last part is, and it's the elephant in the room, but it has to be addressed, is that if Colorado can't pay NIL money to high school players, then you'll never be able to sign top 10 classes. I don't care how cool Deion is.
They're going to be able to pay whatever the revenue share cap is.
So why is Colorado not a place that he would, like, if you want to be a great coach, what would be cool?
Finest audio out there. Also, they're teaming up with college athletes like Travis Hunter from Colorado, which we're about to talk about, Ohio State's Will Howard and Quinshon Judkins, and these football stars embody JLab's core values of innovation, performance, and excellence. Just as JLab pushes the boundaries of audio tech, these athletes redefine their sport with skill and dedication. Whether you're traveling to watch your favorite team or streaming the game on your mobile device, JLab has you covered. Find the blue box at retailers near you or visit jlab.com. That is jlab.com.
I mean, I know alma mater is a strong pool for people. I'm not going to discount that. But what would be the coolest? Like, you took this program that was in the dumps. It was a shit program. There's no other way to say it. And then made them a perennial winner because you're Deion Sanders. What better ego boost is that? Like, I actually think that you are at a place, as long as we are including we're not in the super era or super league era, but Colorado legitimately could make the playoff this year. If they win out, who knows how the Big 12's, like, they could win the Big 12 this year. That's not over yet.
Not over at all. And
so the
Deion effect does supplement, like, even if you, this is where I think the rev share thing is interesting, because you do have a budget. You may not have as big of a budget, or you might not have a collective that kicks in as much, above that as Alabama or Ohio State does, but you have Deion. And that helps get you legitimate, real, like, we just did an ad where Travis Hunter's in the ad. Like, he's getting paid by JLab for that, by EA Sports for that. And a lot of that is because now Travis Hunter
who's the
is
biggest
awesome
star in the sport this year?
Deion Sanders.
Well, yeah, but who's
Travis
the biggest
Hunter.
player?
Travis Hunter.
You don't have to go to Alabama anymore to be a great marketing campaign. Like, you don't.
Yeah.
I just, and I don't know that Deion, like, I'm not even asking him, and this is the disconnect I think people have with me. I'm not asking him to go put together a Georgia class. I'm asking him to go put together like I don't know,
a Kentucky class.
Yeah, or a South Carolina class,
A South
or a
Carolina
Mississippi State class.
No, a South Carolina class is exactly what you want, because a South Carolina, like if you look at Shane Beamer's recruiting over the last few years, like he'll sprinkle in 5-stars.
Nick Barber in there, yeah, like they
yeah.
got guys. So like the thing is that like I get called a Deion Sanders hater all the time, and I think that's just the temperament of the fans who like root for Deion. I actually have so much love for him, like in terms of like he could be the person. We talk about what do you need to do, like he could literally
you're just I'm not mad, I'm disappointed, because you want
yes, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed.
You want him to feel the same way about high school recruiting you do, but in his reality, he may not have to. And you're saying I want this ideal version. He may be like, I'm good enough with just getting them to the point where they can win the Big 12. Like, we're not inside his head. But
what if he woke up with the Dan Lanning fire in his belly? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Don't you think that would be lethal? Oh, am I not allowed to be disappointed in that? That when he got the job? If you want
to. Yeah, I think you should tell him that. Coach Prime.
One day I
just want to let you know how disappointed I am in you.
One day I want to. I don't know that he would ever talk to me in one-on-one. It's hard to get him because he's Deion Sanders. And I don't think that we could have a real discussion about it in a press conference setting. Like I can't just ask one question without coming off as a
I do think in private he would talk to you about it.
If we could have him on the show and just have a real discussion about what your plan is and how you view the sport, what you want. Like, I don't know the answer to these questions. I would love to hear his real perspective.
Well, and I think that's what I find interesting and why I think I might have been wrong on this, because I was looking at it through a prism of here's how it's always worked. And the more this goes, the more things change, the more I start to realize I don't know how it's supposed to work going forward. And I don't know that a lot of other people do either. So everybody's trying to find the best way to make it work. What Deion is doing might work just as well as what we were suggesting. So I don't know. All I see is his team getting better every week. So I'm thinking maybe he's onto something. So we'll find out.
We have to say this right now. If you are a person who criticizes Deion Sanders, and I've been, I don't know if you have much, but if you are loud when they stink, or you make a tweet that is a joke when they're getting their ass kicked by Nebraska, you cannot be silent when they're winning. You can't. No. Like, that's not how this works. So, Deion, hats off to you. Like, you're doing a really good job. Your team is really fun to watch, and actually, I thought very disciplined. Like, you would think like they would like with their the way people view them, like, oh, they're in it for clicks, not wins, like all that stuff, like that reputation. You would think they would be not disciplined. They'd have a bunch of penalties. They wouldn't be prepared. Like, they are prepared and playing clean football. Like and
the thing is they're now starting to do some of the things that you didn't think they were going to be able to do. Like, I'm watching them run into the end zone in the red zone. And I didn't think they would ever develop a running game good enough to do that consistently. But they're starting to do that now. Like, it's not perfect by any stretch, but it's good enough to keep the defense from just teeing off on Shedeur. Like, they've done a good job figuring out what their weaknesses are, improving on some of those things, and then really kind of enhancing what their strengths are. So, yeah, hats off, because I wasn't sure this was like, I thought they'd be bowl eligible. I thought they would improve some this year, but I think they've improved quite a lot. So,
there's no question. There's no question.
Very excited to see what this race looks like the rest of the way. The Big 12 race is going to be fun going down the line. You got BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Colorado. That's pretty much that's who's left in it right now. And it could be a little bit of a jumbled mess there at the end, but I can't wait to see how it turns out.